Staying in Northern Ireland, police are investigating an extraordinary story, the presence of a man dressed as a Hamas militant, Hamas terrorist, let's call him what he is, who took part in the Halloween parade in Derry on Tuesday.
That's right, the man's image was posted and shared on social media. As you can see, it is a man, if you're listening on the radio, dressed from head to foot in gear, resembling a Hamas fighter, so military combat with a mask over his face, a headband, Hamas headband on, and a Palestinian flag on the front of his flak jacket, I think they're called.
Staggering. Well, joining us now is GB News presenter and former First Minister of Northern Ireland, Dame Arlene Foster. Morning to you, Arlene.
Good morning, good morning.
This is staggeringly insensitive at best. At worst, it borders on criminal behaviour.
Well, just to give a little bit of context to this, Andrew, Halloween in Londonderry, Derry to some people, is one of the biggest celebrations. I think it's probably the biggest Halloween celebration in Europe, and it's gone to by young people, by families, and there was a huge crowd in the city, actually on the lead up to Halloween and on Tuesday evening. So this chap is apparently walking about on Tuesday in full Hamas terrorist garb. And it appears that no one from the police service thought to stop him and challenge him. And I would know that there would have been police wandering about, mingling with the crowds. And I think it's entirely unacceptable. Now, I do understand the police have said that they're looking into it now, but it'll be nigh on impossible, Andrew, to identify this person because, as you've seen from the screen grab, he's completely covered and it'll be impossible to identify who he is.
Could you possibly arrest him for, though, Arlene?
Well, he's dressed as a Hamas terrorist. As you know, Hamas is a prescribed organisation under the Terrorism Act, so therefore he could be arrested very easily.
Because the implication being that he might actually be a Hamas terrorist. He's holding a plastic gun of some kind. Sorry, go on.
No, all he has to do is show support for Hamas. That's what the legislation says. If you show support for a terrorist organisation, then you can be arrested under that legislation. Therefore, and despite the fact that he probably thought he was hilariously funny, it sends a hugely wrong message to young people who were on the streets of Londonderry enjoying Halloween, having a fun time. This guy's walking about as a Hamas terrorist, normalising terrorism.
Yeah.
And I fundamentally think that is so wrong for our young people to see. And it should have been stopped on the day. Police say they're now looking into it, but let's face it, it's going to be very difficult to find a prosecution against somebody after the event.
Doesn't this go to the heart, Arlene, of this debate that's going on now? Have the police, A, got enough powers? I think they have. We were talking to Esther McVeigh here earlier in the studio. Yeah. She says they have got the powers. They're just not blimmin' using them.
Well, I think on this occasion they could have used their powers very easily to arrest this gentleman. Presumably he wasn't seen by a police officer. In terms of the mass demonstrations that are going on, that is very difficult because the police would be completely overwhelmed if they moved in to arrest people. And that's the fundamental problem here. And as I understand it, Andrew and Bev, there are more protests planned. Because of the scale of those protests, the police will tell you that all they can do is collect evidence and then try to pursue people afterwards. And you will have seen various photographs that the Metropolitan Police have now put out, people that they want to speak to, people that they want to bring in to have a conversation with about what they were doing at these protests. But really, is that enough? These protests are now happening every Saturday. If I was a Jewish person living in London, I would feel under siege. And therefore, that has to be reflected. And I think government really needs to start directing the police to get a grip of this.
And my worry is as well, they're going to do a major march in London, I think in other major cities too, on November the 11th, Armistice Day, which is, again, it could be very evocative, it could be another trigger point, and one worries about, are they going to attack statues, memorials, cenotaphs? It could be a very, very difficult day.
It could be, and I have to say I'm very concerned about that as well. That is a day when we all come together as a nation to remember the service, the loyalty, the duty, the dedication of our armed forces and what they do for this nation. And on that very day, on that very hour, we're going to have people marching through the streets of London in terms of free Palestine. And some of those people, not all of them, I acknowledge that, will be in support of Hamas and the actions which they have taken in Israel. And I think that that is something that we as a nation need to be very careful about. What sort of a message is that sending out to people, that we're allowing this to happen all of the time? Meanwhile, in Belfast City Council, we had them voting on expelling the ambassador, the Israeli ambassador, from Dublin last night. Such a waste of time in terms of Belfast City Council's time and energy. They should be talking about the city and how to make it a better city, how to deal with the fact that they had 8% rise in their rates. But instead, they were talking about sending a message to the Dublin government to expel the Israeli ambassador from Dublin. Absolutely idiotic.
Yeah, idiotic. And what the hell's it got to do with Belfast City Council? What happens in Dublin? Staggering.
Correct. Absolutely correct. Absolutely staggering. But this is what passes for local government in Northern Ireland, sadly, I have to say.
Which party runs Belfast City Council?
Well, it was a motion brought forward by People Before Profit. I have to say, gladly, it failed last night. But what didn't fail was the fact that they had another motion down in terms of an arms embargo, which did pass through the council last night. This is a council that is charged, as you know, with cleaning the streets, making sure the bins are collected, dealing with making sure people are buried in the appropriate way. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the Middle East conflict. You could not make it up.
Yeah.
Can I just ask you, finally, Arlene, why is Halloween, by the way, such a big event in Derry, Londonderry? Why has it become the biggest celebration, if celebration is the right word, in Europe?
Well, I think they have developed it over many, many years. Halloween is celebrated as a fun night. People go out and have a bit of fun, get dressed up and what have you. If you're into that sort of thing, that's all fine. They have made it into a huge event, and I think it's really good for the city. But what has marred the event this year is the fact that this chap, whoever he is, wherever he's from, is walking around in a terrorist garb. And I think that is completely wrong. And for me, sends out a very negative message for what is, I have to say, a very positive event in the city and brings lots of people in for tourist reasons. Well,
let's hope they catch him, Arlene.
Yeah, well, I just don't think it's going to happen because of the fact that he is so covered. The time to deal with him was there and then, and I'm sorry to say that hasn't happened.
Okay. Thanks,
Lovely to
Arlene.
talk to you.